Welcome to Colney Talk Podcast.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to another episode of Colney Talk Podcast, your bite-sized breakdown show. I'm your host Alex. First-time listeners, glad to have you here. And to my returning guests, thank you for sticking with me. As always, I talk a bit about the Arsenal match and pick out my top 3 players who shined and one odd player not good enough I get to call out. Arsenal's Champions League journey came to a heartbreaking end with a loss to PSG. We tried. We gave it our all. I know we all feel so much pain. You know, despite the disappointment, I feel there's immense pride to be taken from reaching the semifinals. Now, I know many of you or many of us are in different tents in terms of emotions and sentiments. And all I can say on that is I encourage many of you to remain highly steadfast. Do your best to block out the noise of what ifs, bottle jobs, and, second FC kind of thing. You might hate to hear this now, but we have to go through this to get to the ultimate reward. So let's all look at it that way. I can't tell you all how to feel, how to think. It's just my encouragement to you all listening to this to appreciate how much we've gotten this far. It's not a given. It's taken us a lot to get to this point. We barely even thought of dreaming the achievements of what this club has done in the past. The expectations of what we have has always been by the name for a while up till this point. So it's no longer by the name. It's exactly the brand of football, the brand of what this team and the organization has gotten us to. And for the players that are in it now representing Arsenal, I think we just have to give it all in terms of staying in the fight, encouraging, or looking at it on the bright side as much as possible, because nothing, absolutely nothing, makes it all sweeter when we go through this and come out on top, which I know we clearly will. It's trophy or nothing, because we have grown to the point of saying that. Before we were not. We were hoping to get to a certain stage. We've come through that, and here we are. And getting to that final top, it takes a lot. It's a different level, and that different level, maybe this is part of the growing pains. This is part of the evolution that we will, have to overcome and then transform to having it become one of our staple expectations. So I encourage myself and you all to think through that, or at least look at it in that light, because it is so easy to pound on these players. It's so easy to pound on the organization, rightfully so in some ways, but it doesn't help. And I feel the vibes that we can at least convert to where we are right now, it should be something that we're looking forward and hoping that there is real strong conviction of being ruthless in decision making, quick, swift actions that would translate to what we expect right now. So I thought I'll start with that. For the game, Arsenal were remarkably intense. I think it was what we were expecting them to do, getting out of the blocks, immediately putting PSG under significant pressure. They were determined to overturn that first leg deficit. And, we were really lucky that we were just only down 1-0. So it didn't feel like anything. Yes, it was pretty much like a halftime, look. Trying to get a goal in early to cut that deficit was what we were, aiming for. Declan Rice gave us nearly the perfect stat with a glancing header that drifted wide. If it was going in, there was no way Donnarumma could have saved it, because it was far from his reach. It was moving pretty fast, and it was just inches off. That's it. Arsenal swarmed forward early, forcing PSG into uncomfortable situations while we were creating several promising opportunities. And we kept going at it. We had to play desperate. We had to play determined even more. We knew we had business to take care of. The intensity of our press was causing PSG all sorts of problems. Martinelli threatened down the left flank. It was from there that most of the talk zeroed in for, at least in my mind. Everything hovered around Donnarumma. After that, Ødegaard was excruciatingly close with a powerful shot that seemed destined for the bottom corner. But again, Donnarumma produced what was a world-class save. Now, despite our dominating possession and territory, we can't forget PSG and their pace, their counterattack, that threat. It showed up. Lewis-Skelly curled a beautiful effort that struck the post, and I felt like I saw a ghost, folks. I mean, that was a shocker. And that wasn't all. Doué had an opportunity too, but it was a direct shot to Raya, and I think all the fire and blaze and pressing that Arsenal had, at least the way I felt, got turned down just a little bit when we got that reaction from PSG. Then it all turned when PSG scored from a set piece situation. It was a very poor clearance that fell to Fabian Ruiz for a beautiful finish. I mean, it was an exhibit of excellent technique to control the ball before unleashing a powerful shot that went past Raya. It was really devastating. Considering our strong start, I sensed an air of deflation with a steep mountain to climb. That was just my feeling, but the way I saw it, these players knew they had to fight. They knew they couldn't stop. Nothing was going to, bring them down. And that's exactly how they played. After falling behind, our early rhythm and fluidity began to fade just a little bit, and fading from a place of the domination that they had in the early start. The midfield battle, which we had been winning, gradually shifted into PSG's favor, and they were finding more space between our lines. And our press became less coordinated, and PSG grew into the game as the half progressed. So, looking back at the first half, it was hard not to feel that football being so cruel at times, and how you do everything to score, and in just one fell swoop, something goes against you. So for all our good work in the opening 25 minutes or so, all it took was one lapse in concentration from a set piece, and we started sinking, and sinking from a place of grip. PSG hadn't necessarily been the better team for much of the half, but they had been more clinical with their opportunities. The fine margins at this elite level of, Champions League, and at this stage of a competition, it was on full display. Unfortunately, we found ourselves on the wrong side of them heading into the break. So it was a 1-0 deficit going in, and yeah, we had a lot more to bring. And yeah, I mean, we just had to keep supporting the boys, because it was only going to take one thing to change everything, and that's how we ran it. Arsenal stepped up their determination, starting with the second half, clearly not ready to surrender the fight, and they shouldn't. I mean, if I said that for the second half, then it would felt maybe we were 3-0 down or something. But there was visible purpose in our build-up play as we tried to fight our way back into the contest. I think, to me, the pressing was more synchronized, and you could see the players pushing and fighting hard. Although what I also, recognized was how PSG became less and less press resistant in how we dominated, and regaining possession wasn't our problem, but it was maintaining that press from our side. And the way they evaded that, it quickly switched into us reacting rather than being proactive as far as the counterattacks, because in one or two plays when they were able to dribble past that contraption that we're trying to create for them in the middle of the park, we had to scramble back, and we didn't have as many to neutralize their speed, their pace, or we didn't have enough yellow cards around for them to, for any of the players to fall on the sword, especially since we hadn't scored yet. PSG's defensive organization remained impressive, and more to the fact, you're going to hear his name all around. Donnarumma continued to be a formidable last line of defense. He produced another fingertip save to deny Saka a moment that represented our struggle to convert promising positions of the goals, because we had them. This was not lucky shots that would have gotten in. These were pinpoint shots that we've seen in this competition that had been denied. So credit all around. It was a great game. Throughout both legs of the semifinal, Donnarumma's performance has been nothing short of exceptional. He proved to be the difference maker in this game, and at least in this series. And just as we were building momentum, PSG were awarded a penalty after Lewis-Skelly was penalized for a handball. That was unfortunate, but yeah, that was the right call. But then it would have looked like fate was about to favor us, because Raya saved the penalty. I thought when they were awarded the penalty, it was over, and I thought there was no coming back. But then Raya just did the unbelievable, saving that penalty, giving us a chance. It was a huge moment, that kept our hopes alive and showcased Raya's quality. It was beautiful. Could you imagine how that would have turned. If we scored early, we still got this penalty. Raya saved it. It would have given us extra strength to fight back, which, we had every reason to continue pushing. The penalty save should have been that catalyst, for the comeback. But PSG delivered another sucker punch when Hakimi doubled the lead with another beautiful finish. So now we were 2-0 down, and the tie began to look far beyond our reach. To the team's immense credit, they responded almost immediately when Bukayo Saka pulled a goal back with a finish from a tight angle, and I think a lot of credit goes to Trossard in the quality that he produced at those moments and in making something happen. I think there was this angle of his play that we needed to get that spark, and I wish we had it earlier, but it's not a perfect situation because the way the team was made up, we needed pace as well. So Martinelli being there at the start was what we needed. Suddenly there was a glimmer of hope. Saka should have scored another goal that would have leveled the match and put us one goal away from forcing into extra time. And with that, I mean, it's crazy. It really was. Saka found himself with that open goal with a brilliant cross into the box, and it was the type of chance that simply had to be converted, and we just didn't do it. It wasn't meant to be. It represented how we have tried so many ways to score but weren't scoring. And as the match entered its closing stages, PSG got into game management and they slowed the tempo, restraining our possession in safe areas and kept disrupting our rhythm as much as possible. And despite our efforts, we couldn't create as much of a clear opportunity as we had earlier on, again with fatigue and the later stages of the game and the reality of the clock running down, and that feeling of this is where it all comes down to be. It just started to sink even more, and then that was it. The final whistle blew and we knew we had run to the end of this tournament. And PSG's approach was well executed throughout the match, especially how they had to suffer. Not a lot of teams prepared for that, but for a team this young and how they were really coached, it's very different. We often run into a wall at the edge of their box when we maintain a compact shape that was difficult to play through. Their mid-block forced us wide. Using Mikel Merino as what he is, as an interesting choice in that middle to pull, to hold up space and have some height in there, didn't really play out well. I mean, the intention was clearly to have another technical skilled player for us who could drop deep and create overloads in the midfield, which it worked, potentially drawing PSG out in different situations. We had a lot of chances for it to be in our advantage, without everything, fitting right for us and what we don't have right now. We had players there that were able to do the job. We had things that were working. It was working. The tactics, the formations, the movements, everything. I mean, we tried it all and there were good signs. There were encouraging signs. PSG's midfielders, they showed excellent positional awareness, rarely getting caught in the same horizontal line and always providing passing options for their teammates. And this made our pressing less and less effective than in the previous games that we've had. And there was almost a free man available to progress through the ball. And the way that they would evade our press was releasing the ball and then just sprinting forward. And then we would scramble back in reaction. And these situations really showed how hard it was to contain, and we did our best. That's how we ended the match, full of heartbreak and frustrations, but they tried the best. They really did. So I am intentionally speaking in this slide because it doesn't help to turn it all negative. Getting to this point, I just have to think back to how much this team has gone through, and it's not just only about Real Madrid. Every other team that we played, every other situation that we went through in the standings, the record showed for itself. So a reflection of our end of the journey. Now, moving on to my top 3 players that stood out in this match. It was kind of hard to pick them because it wasn't a clear standout, but there are some that stood above the others. First player, Declan Rice. his performance, it was him. Throughout the match, his energy, determination, he was stuck in. He tried to drive the team forward while also providing that stability. That glancing header would have set the tone for us, providing the positive start. And had it gone in, the complexity of the tie will have changed. It for sure would have changed dramatically. Rice's ability to read the game was amazing, with several important breaking interceptions, because PSG would have hurt us had it not been for Rice as well. So credit to him. That crucial last-ditch tackle to deny Barcola. He ran yards. Yards. Yes, he has the legs as well, but you've seen this game. You've seen some of the highlights, but this was one of the reasons why you just cannot deny him a big shout out, because any missed timings would have resulted in a penalty or a clear path, or not even getting there in time. It was the kind of defensive contribution that Rice to produce, but more to the point, even on the attacking side of it, you could see Rice in every second of corner, making sure that he was delivering or connecting with the other players. In possession, Rice showed his evolution. He was comfortable on the ball, and he consistently looked to make forward passes and progressions through the crosses that he was making as well. And Rice refused to let the scoreline affect his performance. He shows his elite mentality. Even as the match slipped away from Arsenal, he continued to cover ground, making tackles, keeping his head up, and trying to inspire the team around him. That's a captain, a leader without having the badge. And I'm not saying he should be the new captain. No, I'm not in that camp, but we need more of him, and I know we'll benefit in the long run. Second player, Bukayo Saka, once again, our brightest in the game as far as attacking. He was the most consistent attacking threat as far as scoring goes and the shooting, because he gave Nuno Mendes a bit more problems than in the past. His ability to receive the ball and, turn and try to make some other defenders come in for him to open lanes. He was just doing it as smoothly as you expect. And the goal showcases quality. The missed goal, he's a good finisher, but that was a bad miss. He's a top-class finisher. It's hurtful in that miss, but I know, he's going to get better from that. Beyond the goal, Saka's overall game was impressive. His defensive work rate, was not overlooked. He supported as much as he could, but that wasn't the game that he was instructed to, apply, even though there was some elements to it. Of course, the missed opportunity could have changed the tie, but when presented with an opening goal following an excellent work down the left, Saka sent the shot over the crossbar. It was a crazy miss, and it's the kind of miss that simply has to be converted at his level, just touching on that point. But even in the high pressure, he played with the same level of confidence and quality that he's going to go again. He's going to find something. Even if it felt like an individual play, he was going for it. So, credit for him there. Now, third and final player, Mikel Merino. I struggled to find someone else. Not that he's not a servant, but there were no far degrees of higher performances, because we were struggling, we were fighting, we were defending, and we were trying to get ourselves in the attacking frame. So, Mikel Merino, for me, his performance in the context of what he was doing, being number 9 and coming back to drop deep in the middle of the area, he has done this several times, and these are the similar accolades that he receives, because he was giving Marquinhos and Pacho a lot of problems. The stats and ratings that you might expect it to show in this game was very different. And in terms of tactics, he was a line blocker. He was making sure certain things were not going as easily as it was in the first leg. He linked up effectively, dropping into deeper positions and comfortably switching back as a number 9, as that reliable outlet. There are several occasions where his clever movement created space for Martinelli and had him to advance to drive forward into the box. So his effects were there. Merino's aerial presence didn't really have an effect, because again, Donnarumma doing Donnarumma things didn't allow us to take advantage of for what our set piece effects would cause them problems for. Donnarumma's presence was there to neutralize our set piece effects, and as a result, we just had to manage with other tactics. And his willingness to hustle, Merino that is, and grind and push forward. I mean, there was a lot of credit to how much he played, and I really, appreciate that. Now, while this disappointment is undeniable, this Arsenal team has much to be proud of. As I said, reaching this Final Four and how we have gone through it, the experience gained presents something that can never be replicated. It's so invaluable, and it will be something that would develop these players even better in terms of controlling their emotions, managing the game, and knowing how to perform and be very lethal when it comes to our opportunities. The manner in which we approached both legs against PSG, it showed we had that courage, we had that belief. We weren't overawed by the occasion or the opposition. Instead, we were playing like we belonged. So, on another day with more clinical finishing and perhaps without facing Donnarumma in such an inspired form, it could have been completely different. So big credit to them on that. What's encouraging also is how the team has grown throughout this campaign. How, Miles Lewis-Skelly now fully belongs, not like he wasn't before, but in what this heartbreak has shown, it's given him much more of an experience that I don't think he would have scripted in any better way. So it's a good thing in all its entirety. Now, looking ahead, there are clear positives as we continue to build on. The core of this team is young, and we have Saka, Rice, and others like Miles who would learn together, the tactical understanding, how they would move forward with reinforcement and coming back with a reason to right the wrong. It's something that I'm being hopeful for. So for now, congratulate PSG on their win. Wish them luck to whoever wins. As for Arsenal, we regroup, we reflect, and focus on finishing what's remaining of our season strongly before coming back next season, because that determines a lot. We want to start strong, finish strong, and go with that determination of what is an unfinished business. The journey continues, and it doesn't stop here. It's another step up. So that's that. All right, that wraps it up for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe with your fellow Gunners. Until next time, take care.